Good morning. Welcome to worship here at First Parish in Concord Unitarian Universalist. Whether you are joining from the heart of Concord or from anywhere around our world, we are glad you are here. My name is the Reverend Liz Weber. I am the Minister for Pastoral Care in this congregation, and I am glad to see your names here in the chat. I invite you to continue to say good morning and hello to each other. And if I'm not seeing your names, I'm still glad to just imagine your faces. It is good to gather, good to be together. On this Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, I want to say that we are lifting up Reverend Dr. King and his work today. We also commit to working towards racial justice 365 days a year here. And so let us just take this time to think a bit more deeply into the good work and legacy that King offered to us all, and that we continue in coalition with other leaders. So good morning and welcome from me and from all of us who are leading this service this morning. I will invite each worship leader to say good morning to you. We have here today our intern minister, Jade Sylvan.
Good morning, I'm so happy to be here.
We have our director of music ministries, Beth Norton.
Morning, everyone. It is great to see your names pop up in the chat. It's almost like seeing you walk through the doors.
Our social action manager, Adrienne Betancourt.
I'm so very glad to be here with you this morning.
Our Minister for Religious Exploration, Reverend Amy Friedman.
Good morning, everyone. We've already had a gathering of our families, and I'm so glad to continue to explore this theme with our wider community.
Definitely, and I encourage families to continue checking out Reconnect every Sunday morning at 9, and then to hop on over here for Sunday morning worship at 10. It's good to have church all morning long. Along with Amy, teaming with her, we have our Assistant DRE, Director of Religious Exploration, Dawn Van Patten.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday.
And on tech today, we have Lily Vander Zanden.
Good morning, everybody. Great to be here.
And finally, our Director of the Gospel Choir, Anderson Manuel, is going to offer our call to worship.
Good morning, everyone. It is so good to be here with you this morning. This morning, we are Call to Worship written by Marilyn Sewell. Come into this circle of love and justice. Come into this community where we can dream and believe in those dreams. Come into this holy place, this holy space where we remember who we are and how we want to live. Come now and let us worship together.
If you have a chalice or a candle nearby, I invite you now to light it with me. And today I am going to be lighting mine in honor of the inauguration coming up this Wednesday, and with a special place in my consciousness, in my heart, for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and this historic transfer. May they be safe as they enter into this new phase, and may they lead us to the beginnings of healing. I invite you to light this with me as we read our chalice lighting. O flame of our faith, open our hearts and fill our bodies and souls with persistent strength. Enliven our spirits and engage us deeply in this life of ours, this sacred, essential moment now. And now Anderson will lead us in a song.
Please join me this morning And let us sing together, come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I am bound. Please sing with a joyful spirit. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There will be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. There will be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. There'll be loving. There'll be loving in that land. There'll be loving in that land. There'll be loving in that land where I'm bound. There'll be loving in that land. There'll be loving in that land. There'll be loving in that land where I'm bound. There'll be no more hunger. There'll be no hunger in that land. There'll be no hunger in that land. There'll be no hunger in that land where I'm bound. There'll be no hunger in that land. There'll be no hunger in that land. There'll be no hunger in that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound.
Thank you so much, Anderson. Wow, it is so much fun to sing with you. This morning's children's message comes from the life of John Lewis. And you've probably heard of John Lewis. He was a civil rights activist and a congressman, and he just died last year, and we miss him, and he did fabulous work. You probably know, he's famous for talking about good trouble. He said his philosophy is very simple. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, say something, do something, get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble. Well, he wrote a book about his life, and his work for a more just and loving world. And the book is called Walking with the Wind. And he named the book after something that happened when he was a young child. So he shares that story at the beginning of his book, and I want to share that story with you now. So John grew up in Alabama, and one Saturday when he was about 4 years old, he was playing outside his Aunt Suneva's house. Now, his Aunt Suneva lived in a very small rectangular house with a large dirt yard outside. And John says that day he was playing with his brothers, his sisters, cousins. There were about 12 to 15 children in all. And while they were playing, the wind picked up and it started to rain. And they could hear rumbling thunder in the distance. It was clear that a big storm was rolling in. Well, Aunt Suneva called the children into the house. And the house was small, and John says that with so many children inside, it seemed even smaller. Well, the rain started to come down harder, and it was beating down on the roof. And the roof is made of tin, and if you've ever been inside a house with a tin roof with a lot of rain coming down, it is loud, really loud. So that sound and the wind howling outside, the children were getting scared. Aunt Suneva was getting scared. The house was shaking. Well, the floor beneath their feet began to bend, and a corner of the room started to lift up. John Lewis says he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The storm was pulling the house toward the sky with them in it. Well, that was when Aunt Suneva told the children to clasp hands and to line up. She told them to walk as a group to the center of the house that was lifting. And so they did. And then as another corner would lift up, they would walk together to that corner. They were holding the weight of that trembling house with their small bodies. They were walking with the wind. Well, John Lewis thinks about that story. And he says, all of us, we all are one family. We are all living in the same house. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, your religion, or how you vote. We are all one family living in the same house. We are rocked by storms, and sometimes the walls seem like they might fly apart. There is so much tension and so many storms. And John Lewis says that people of conscience, people who stand up for what is right and fair, they never leave the house. Those people, we stay. We join hands, doing what we can, moving toward the corner of the house that is the weakest. Inevitably, the storm will settle. And another storm will come, and we'll do it all again. We are one family in one house, walking with the wind. Thank you for listening.
Please join your voices together now to sing our response. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to see what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another, and may we walk in peace.
Our reading today is from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech that he gave to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in 1967 called Where Do We Go From Here? When our days become dreary with low hovering clouds of despair, and when our nights become darker than 1,000 midnights, let us remember that there is a creative force in this universe working to pull down the gigantic mountains of evil, a power that is able to make a way out of no way and transform dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows. Let us realize that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. The arc is long, but it bends towards justice. For King, this was a deeply spiritual and religious belief. He was a minister and a community organizer, after all. Love, spirit, and justice were intertwined for him. And though we may use different language, love, spirit, and justice are intertwined for us too as Unitarian Universalists. King saw God shaping the arc, that force at work in the universe, making a way out of no way, looking out for the people who were most oppressed and marginalized. And as King dedicated his life to, and as President Obama later put into words in a particular way, we also must take hold of the arc and help to bend it towards justice. The arc is long, but it bends towards justice, and we must help to bend it. I want to talk today about the length of the arc and the bending of the arc. I don't know about you, but lately I've really been feeling the length of the arc. I know that this storm will settle and another will come, and that will settle and another will come, and that we can keep going to the corners of the house that need our attention. And yet, wow, I have been filled with joy and worry in, at best, equal measure lately. There is, on the one hand, the election of more people who will work for the values that we espouse as Unitarian Universalists, the victory for Biden by several million votes, the hope of our first female, Black, and South Asian vice president. There is, on the other hand, continued voter suppression, escalating white supremacist violence, the attempted coup at our Capitol, and now threats for this coming week. As well as talking about the arc of the moral universe, in an earlier speech at the Highlander Center in Tennessee, King had stated, "We notice two contradictory forces at work in the South, the forces of defiance and the forces of compliance. On the one hand, we notice a resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan and the rise of white citizens' councils. On the other hand, we notice constructive forces at work seeking to create new respect for human dignity." If we today were to sub in the names of alt-right hate groups, this quote would feel just as fresh as it did in 1957 when King uttered those words. I'm guessing it would have felt just as fresh in 1857 or even farther back. White supremacy is a thread that runs throughout our nation's history. The arc is long. Let's distinguish a little bit between white supremacists and white supremacy. White supremacists stormed the Capitol building. White supremacy is why there were so many more police and who were armed so much more heavily at Black Lives Matter protests than when white supremacists stormed the Capitol. White supremacy is an ideal that is deeply woven into our cultural norms. Womanist theologian Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown Douglas, especially in her book called Stand Your Ground, has documented how whiteness, religion, and freedom became intertwined in our country. She traces the arc all the way back to having roots in Roman times, the year 98 CE, when Roman historian Tacitus wrote about a pure tribe of Germans called the Saxons. The Saxons, Tacitus thought, were this ethnically distinct and pure tribe who were inherently moral. And because they were inherently moral and knew right from wrong, they were also perfectly self-governing, inherently able to be more free than other peoples. Now, this tribe was a myth in many ways. No one has documentation of exactly who these people were or what made Tacitus think they were how they were. But this myth got transported from Rome to England and eventually to the American colonies. The English saw themselves as the descendants of this tribe, which is how we got the idea of Anglo-Saxons. And part of the goal of the Pilgrims and the Puritans was to maintain their religious purity, and in this country, this colony, to establish a more pure form of self-government or more freedom. Think about the image of a city on a hill, a place set apart by God and favored by God, a place where people were free in their community and serving as a model for all other lesser peoples. So this myth of Anglo-Saxon exceptionalism, inherent superiority, became the myth of American exceptionalism. Being American meant being Anglo-Saxon and Protestant. And these are still our roots as Americans and as Unitarian Universalists. Because this mythical Saxon tribe was inherently morally superior, freedom was its people's birthright. To be American meant having the right to land and freedom, which we saw become heightened in ideas like manifest destiny. It also became heightened during the Romantic era, and this includes transcendentalist notions about individualism. For example, Emerson supported the idea that there was a direct line from Saxon blood to American blood, and the idea that Saxons and therefore Americans were an exceptional and superior race. Throughout time, these ideas about Anglo-Saxons became ideas about whiteness. As more European immigrants arrived, they gradually figured out how to assimilate and gain power. And they did this by using their white skin color, which was closer and gave them affinity with the original colonizers of our country. So claiming this identity of whiteness, creating and claiming it, gave them a way to be accepted and gain the power of Anglo-Saxons. Gradually, being white became an identity that was even more important than being Anglo-Saxon. And who is fully American and who was less than coalesced into a distinction between who was white and who was not. Namely, who was white and who was Black. Finally, being a white American meant being morally superior. In contrast, Black people came to be seen in our national culture not just as less than, but as inherently wrong or sinful. And these ideas about whiteness and Blackness led to what Kelly Brown Douglas calls cultural war against Black people. This is a painful and ongoing reality. Just this week, Pastor Patrick Warren Sr., an unarmed Black man, was killed by police in Texas after his family called the police to ask them to do a wellness check on their loved one. White supremacy culture has done a lot of harm. It has been with us since day one. That is a long arc. There is this ongoing struggle between the idea that all people are created equal and the idea of American exceptionalism, and especially white American exceptionalism. But this arc has been bending all along. There have been people who have worked to bend the arc. All along, there have been what King calls constructive forces for human dignity. People working to make a new way, working to bring about an era of love and justice. We can join in that arc. How? How do we help to bend it? I have 3 suggestions. The first is to speak up. Don't be a bystander. Get in good trouble. When you see an injustice happening, speak up. And when you do so, the first thing is to discern whether your goal is dialogue or interruption. We know that there are people who mean well, but just don't know something. And we know that there are people who we might disagree with, but who would be open to constructive dialogue and might want to learn and change their ways. That's great. And that's a group of people with whom we can have real dialogue. And so we speak up in order to learn more about where they're coming from and share our perspective and hopefully grow in what we learn and know together. And then there are people who are not open to dialogue. There are people who are not going to change their ways. And that's where speaking up is the purpose of interruption. We as bystanders speak up to say, no, that's not okay. We know that they're not going to change their mind, but we speak up to show other people that what they've said is not what we can stand for. So speak up. I also invite you to get involved here at First Parish. We are stronger together and we can join our power together. Racial justice is our theme for the year, and you can find out more by looking in FP Weekly. There are tons of opportunities coming up, too many to name. Finally, keep learning. Speak up, get involved, and keep learning. Beloved Conversations continues through Meadville Lombard, a Unitarian Universalist seminary in Chicago that's opening this program to all of us, lay leaders and clergy and religious professionals alike. You can register next month for the spring semester session. And if you're interested in learning more through reading, if you're more of a bookworm, book groups are really pretty easy to find these days. You can look around by asking friends or asking someone from RJAG, the Racial Justice Action Group here at First Parish, for recommendations. Friends, white supremacy culture has caused so much harm, and the forces of white American exceptionalism and the forces of love and spirit and justice have been with us since our very beginnings. The arc is long, and yet we are called to follow that arc and to help bend it towards justice. We are called to journey on. May we each do our part to bring an end to this raging storm. I invite you to consider this question. What will you do to bend the arc towards justice? Take a moment to make a commitment and to type your response into the chat. I love seeing all of our responses in the chat. I love how we engage as a supportive community in the chat when we can't be together in the pews. So I'll read a selection and I invite you to keep reading them afterwards as we sing together. The ways that you and we will work to bend the arc include: keep on speaking up, keep learning and building bridges, be open to conversation, change my company's dialogue, look for opportunities, build bridges wherever possible, create zones of protection as needed, support the work of Black and Brown community organizers, keep treating all people who come to me for help regardless of their ability to pay. Speak up again and again, support the UU Urban Ministry and First Parish in Roxbury. Support the Southern Poverty Law Center. Work hard to support voting rights, racial equity, and the passage of HR 1. Keep engaging in dialogue even when it's uncomfortable. Widen the feminist lens. Listen more attentively. Supporting specific programs, doing the internal work, working to end gerrymandering. Accept my racism and our system's racism and work at being anti-racist. Reset my financial and time priorities to groups working for racial justice. Be an ally outwardly. So many good responses. I haven't even gotten to the bottom yet, but I am glad they're here. And Anderson, I will hand it off to you now.
Hello, everyone. You're about to hear The gospel ensemble singing for you, The Storm is Passing Over, or otherwise known as Courage My Soul and Let Us Journey On. Yet, especially now when so much is at stake, we need something to really uplift our spirit. And this song, written by Charles Albert Tinsley, who was born the son of a slave, he continued to uplift himself. And this song that he's written, when I was going through this pandemic, I kept singing it, and I thought that this would be a great song for our choir to sing. We hope that this song, so alive and extravagant, that it awakens and calls you to discard despair, to abandon apathy, and to praise whatever brings you back to life. Here is our gospel ensemble singing, The Storm is Passing Over.
And the congregation says, Amen. Oh, it is so good to see all of your faces. And thank you for sharing that song of hope with all of us today. One of the ways that we continue to join as a religious community is through our time of prayer and meditation. If there's something going on in your life, a milestone, something that is too big for you to carry by yourself, or something that you are celebrating that you want to share, we have what we call a pastoral list. And you can send that to our minister, Reverend Liz Weber, by email. And we're going to post in our Zoom chat our pastoral list, because we like to hold in confidence your information. And today we are especially thinking of Bill, and we hold Pamela, Andy, and her siblings in our hearts. And now we invite you to bring into your consciousness the people who you hold dear, people in your life who may be struggling, who may be within your household or maybe at a distance from you now, but yet they need extra support and loving care. And so all ages are invited to take part in our embracing meditation. That's an opportunity to name aloud into this space made sacred by our gathering together their names. And you can do that right now in your space, knowing that we are all connected, or you are welcome to add names into our chat. Let us join together in singing Spirit of Life. Please join me in a time of meditation and centering prayer. This morning, my prayer was inspired by the 6 Principles of Nonviolence by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In this time, made holy by many generations who gathered before us, we turn our attention to that which is sacred. As a religious community made holy by the dedication of the spiritual ancestors who came before us, the trust of the children among us, and the promise of the generations who will follow us, we give thanks for the leaders, teachers, musicians, artists, preachers, and change agents who helped shape our world today. We lift up our hearts in gratitude for the ministry of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Even though over 50 years have passed, we mourn his life violently cut short. We wish he were alive to continue his prophetic ministry. to organize non-violent direct action, to speak truth to power, to expose the triple evils of poverty, racism, and war that exist today in a vicious cycle and stand as barriers to our living as a beloved community. In the spirit of Dr. King, who we honor today and this weekend with a national holiday, let us not only celebrate his message one day or one weekend a year. Instead, may we recommit ourselves to the freedom movement. May we recognize that nonviolence is a way of life for courageous people. In our own times, we seek to win friendship and understanding. May we seek to defeat injustice, not people. Nonviolence holds that suffering can educate and transform. Let us choose love instead of hate, and be steadfast in our belief that the universe is on the side of justice. Today, we join our prayers with people of conscience of every color and creed. May our religion, our faith, be a source of strength and vulnerability, so that we may continue the long march toward freedom. Let us continue our prayer in a time of shared silence and then singing together.
And now let us listen to our own Jane Barnes talk about our Share the Plate recipient, Guatemala Aid Fund. And thanks go to Jay Barnes for his technical expertise.
Hi, this is Jane Barnes. Last January, I was fortunate to join 8 women on a trip to Guatemala. The trip was organized by Bethany Eisenberg, a new friend and founder of Guatemala Aid Fund. And it gave me a firsthand look at some of the amazing programs that are fighting poverty there. We visited Fatima Children's Home in Guatemala City, which provides abused and abandoned children a loving home with schooling, healthcare, and psychological counseling. The children welcomed us warmly, and I had a wonderful time playing and laughing with these beautiful kids. We also toured the newly constructed Parent Training and Family Counseling Center. I was struck by the genius of this program because it teaches parents that they can learn skills and strategies to break the patterns that lead to child abandonment and abuse. The next day, we traveled to Solala, a rural community with high rates of poverty and familial abuse. We visited the local school there. One of the women in our group brought a parachute as a gift to the children. It was a fun way for us to play and connect with them. The kids said that they enjoyed the gringos that came to visit. We also toured the community center that is currently under construction. The center will provide education, counseling, and medical care, as well as training in sustainable agriculture techniques to help families get ahead. I was impressed that all the workers are Guatemalan, and in many cases are apprentices learning a new trade. I'm so thankful to the Social Action Committee for choosing Guatemala Aid Fund for this month's Share the Plate. Our donations will go towards finishing the community center in Solala. I hope you will consider making a generous donation to this special organization. Thank you.
So now is your opportunity to contribute to both the good work of First Parish in Concord and the Guatemala Aid Fund, which supports community programs focusing on eradicating the root causes of poverty and malnutrition. Our collection is split 50-50. So you'll see a number appear on your screen to allow you to text your donation. Just text a whole number, 2050, or the first time you'll need your credit card handy. But you can also donate through our website or postal mail a check to the church building. We now gratefully receive your donations.
As we begin to come to the close of our service, I want to invite you to continue to be at church. Ours is a 7-day-a-week congregation. And especially right now, there is a lot going on in the social action realm. You can learn about all things First Parish and including social action opportunities in FP Weekly. If you haven't seen that lately, check your spam folder. It sometimes gets diverted into spam. but it is not spam and is worth skimming. In terms of social action, I especially invite you to learn about Unitarian Universalist support for the Boston Ujima Project. But check out everything that's in there because there's a lot of good stuff. This week, we have our open door worship service on Tuesday at 7 p.m. And then after the inauguration on Wednesday at 7 p.m., we will hold a vigil that Jade is going to be leading. The links for both of those are in FP Weekly. Shifting our focus to today, I want to first introduce you to Cece King, one of our standing committee members.
Morning. I'll be hosting coffee hour today, right after the service. And there's so much that we could talk about today and reflect on, both from this service and everything that we're in the midst of as a country. And so whatever you're carrying, you are welcome to gather for half an hour.
Thanks, Cece. So you're welcome at coffee hour to just show up. And if you'd like a more focused discussion, you're welcome to join the worship sharing circle. We'll post the links to both of those at the end of our service, but they're also in FP Weekly. You might sense a theme there. Later this afternoon, there's the first session of a winter support group. If you've been having a tough time, Jade is leading this 6-session group just as a place to come and get things off your chest and find good support and community. Again, the link's in FP Weekly, or you can email Jade. So I hope to see you today. I hope to see you throughout the week. And now let's sing together. Beth, I'll hand it off to you.
Thanks, Liz. Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. These words from the book of Amos were said to be the favorite passage of Dr. Martin Luther King. And this song by Eileen Vance takes those words and uses them as words of encouragement and inspiration for us when we're feeling like that arc of justice is feeling awfully long and we're working to bend it. So I invite you to sing the chorus with me. I think it will be familiar to many of you, but let's just practice the chorus. Lily, can you put the words up? Thanks. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets tough, we will make a new way. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. There is no freedom, the wise one said. Let justice roll down, roll down. When the poor cry out for shelter and bread, let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we will make a new way. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Hatred will never drive out hate. Let love roll down, roll down. Remember, our hearts can make us great. Let love roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we will make a new way. Let love roll down like a mighty stream. When brutality threatens our daughters and sons, let peace roll down, roll down. May our voices ring out above the guns. Let peace roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets
down like a mighty stream. When fists rise up to strike a blow, let songs roll down, roll down. May the poets remind us of what we know. Let songs roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we will make a new way. Let songs roll down like a mighty stream. Step by step and one by one, let justice roll down, roll down. They can kill the prophet, but the dream lives on. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we will make a new way. Let justice roll down. Let love roll down. Let peace roll down. Let songs roll down. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream.
The arc is long, and there is a force for love and spirit and justice at work in our world. The storm is passing over. Go forth, strong in your commitment to help bend the arc. Go forth and let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Bless your hearts and blessed be. Let us say together our first parish benediction. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings.